modern literature of Pakistan, literature of the world, and with us we have today Shakeel Jazib Sahab, a prominent poet of contemporary ghazal. Shakeel Sahab, we are talking about ghazal in 70s. Now, one question, and then we move to today's ghazal. That is an extension of, as we discussed, of the ghazal of 70s, and we counted all the names, almost all the names, and there are so many still to go. Do you think that this Western philosophical and Western movements, modern Western movements like existentialism and like other streams, they influenced ghazal, and that brought an intrinsic change in ghazal, because we see symbolism, imagism, and they are directly borrowed from, because ghazal deviates from the traditional paths we see when we come to the 60s or 70s. Unlike the tradition, ghazal takes its images, its diction from the world around us. So how do you see that?
Of course, the different trends affect all forms of creations. In Nazm, we see these trends more prominently. In Ghazal, we see subtle changes. And these changes, of course, I will not cause these changes as conscious changes. But unconsciously or subconsciously, our writers are definitely influenced by all such movements, and even the movements in itself. These are not something created or something to be assembled or a conscious effort. Movements are developed.
Very good. Very right.
So these developments occur all around the world, and every citizen, every person living in this world is affected by all such movements. Somehow, like today we see this capitalism. This is the height of capitalism. I mean, every person in this world, on this earth, is influenced, is affected in one way or other by this capitalism. And at that time, the movements, there was socialism movement, there were some other social-political, so there were some socio-political movements, there were some philosophical movements. So all these movements are a result of some development, some physical development. Here again, Karl Marx is very relevant, because all our thinking process, all our aspirations, all our situations, our feelings,
creative process, including
creative process, these are affected by our political and financial changes,
material circumstances,
because the non-material part of our being is affected in a very definite way by the material part of the which is around us. So that's why we see that Ghazal has also changed.
It had new questions
and it had new questions. And you earlier you talked about the experimentations in the Ghazal. There were experimentations in the Nazm as well. There were experimentations in the Ghazal as well. Even today, experimentation is a process which is going on. And today, when we are writing, though Ghazal has its genesis or its background, origin from the Persian history, and in Persia it also came from the Arabic. But we see that even the subjects or the topics are changed, but the style to refer or style to approach those issues is not much change in the Ghazal. It's almost same. As far as human feelings are concerned, it's almost same.
What Hazlitt says, poetry comes home to business and bosom of mankind. It still comes home to business and bosom of mankind.
So, but yes, the expression is changed.
Yes.
There's a visible change in the diction as well. Less Persianized Ghazal is now, we can see when we go to the classics or earlier poets, we see very Persianized diction there, which is not easy to understand.
And you were talking about Nazm, Rashid and Miraji. Rashid in particular is very influenced by Persian. We see Persian lines in titles from.
But when we see Majid Amjad, that's quite different.
We
When
have
we
to
see
change.
Miraji,
Yeah.
that's a very.
कभी आप हंसे कभी नैन हंसे कभी नैनों के बीच
So,
हंसे कजरा.
in between these are many other poets, many other names which are Khalid Ahmad, when we see in the 70s era, or Amjad Saab, in Nazm especially, they have also done experimentations. Then there was a trend of from Kataban Nazm to Azad Nazm, what we say that
Free verse of
free
today.
verse,
And
or you
today
can say,
even prose verse.
and today it's almost prose, Nasri Nazm, which we say. But even in Nasri Nazm, I tell you, I'm not in much favor of the Nasri Nazm. But if there is a poetic element in that, then that definitely is not Nasr. Then you can fit it in any category of the poetry, but it is a poetry. And there are Nasri Nazm which have been many of our today's.
We read Farah Shagufta, Sarwat Saab's Nasri Nazm are excellent.
Ivan Muhammad Zahoor
Zahoor Saab, yes.
They have also written some
Nasri Nazm.
and the poetic element is there.
That is quintessentially poetic. In today's ghazal, we see a lot of things going on, because now it is a question repeatedly, time and again, put forth in front of these ghazal go poets, the poets of ghazal today. Because you have you have expanded, you have added dimensions to our basic question, ghazal of today. So I have come to one point that ghazal is basically, it is in some socio-political background, and today's socio-political background doesn't have any set dimension or magnitude or shape. So we see the same problem reflecting in ghazal, that ghazal today doesn't give you any set dimension. When we talk about tradition, everything comes in that. Every great poet, Mir, Ghalib, Da, even Iqbal, some of Iqbal, they fall in tradition. But when we talk about modernism, after 1970, we don't see any such pattern. Everyone is deviating, everyone is trying to coin their own style.
After 70s till 90s, till our time, when we started poetry, even till that time, there were some element of tradition in the ghazal. And the motive behind the writings or motive behind the poetry was something different. But unfortunately, in this modern age, after 90s, after 2001 or 2010, rather you can say, a very unfortunate trend has been being witnessed, that people now just want to register themselves as a change. As a change element, as a change poet, as a new poet, a newness. And the newness which, whether it has any meanings or not, whether it has something which is consciously comprehensible or not, but they just want
even
to
if
be
it's
a
poetry or not,
even
let me say.
So, when we say, when we come in the era of 80s or 90s, even then we say many prominent poets. Akhtar Usman is there, Abbas Tabish is there, Kamran Shahzad is there, Tariq from Islamabad is there, or Ajmal Siraj is there in Karachi.
Afzal Sajid and Etabar Sajid.
I don't rate them.
But they were there in that 80s. We related to them.
I was
as
just telling you that even these poets, they have not divorced themselves from the legacy or from the tradition. They have taken the tradition with them and they have modified it. Excellent. They have modified their meanings.
Wonderful.
But now, what the trend is being seen is that we just want to say something odd, something striking, something odd, something new, which has never been said before. And in effort of doing so, we forget that why we are why we are writing poetry, why we are saying ghazals. what is the purpose of our poetry. So purpose in this modern poetry is perhaps missing. But again, having said this, there are many strong voices, there are many prominent voices, there are many
healthy
voices. They, again, you cannot say new thing unless you don't know the old ones.
That's what I was referring to when we talked about Eliot. Eliot said that in tradition, for saying something new, you need to have an ample knowledge of tradition.
So, if Zahoor Iqbal has made experiment, he is justified because he has the knowledge of the tradition. He has written Abe Rawa and Ratbo Yabis. So if you are of that caliber, and you can have such type of ghazals which are of that level of ghazals of in the Abe Rawa, then you have the right to.
That's what I say mostly. That before writing Ratbo Yabis, Zahoor Iqbal wrote Abe Rawa and Besam Tamannaon Ka Surag and Gulaftab. These three books and still establish him as a finite modern poet. And he later on he came on Ratbo Yabis and other experiments.
You know, once you have done your basic work, then you also go for something new. If I'll give example of a player. For example, if a player in the match has made his team secure from the defeat, and then if he thinks that he should invent a reverse sweep or he should invent
he can experiment with his batting line, with his bowling, varieties.
Right. he can go for the adventure.
And we still, I repeatedly a very beautiful verse of Mohsin Ehsan is coming to my mind. He said, it sums up all this discussion. He said that मुब्तदी अब लिए फिरते हैं हजारों निश्तर, मुब्तदी अब लिए फिरते हैं हजारों निश्तर, मीर के पास तो थे सिर्फ 72 बाबा. Shakeel Jazib sir, before we proceed our discussion, I'll request you to recite some of your poetic piece for our audience today.
Sir, ghazal.
So I want to show that we are talking about such ghazal. Yes. Not that ghazal. Not just Goli Mario Pant pe chad gaya. Not because poetic play, Shakeel sir, it infuses you, it profuses you. It doesn't punch you. It becomes a part of your chemistry, your personality.
I think Eliot or someone has also defined literature as something which heightens your soul. If it's not heightening your soul, then it's not part.
It's a mimicry of words, jugglery of words. So please,
if you don't feel that you have gained something and something has been elevated in your inner self, then you can say it has a kafiyat.
Again, referring to Hazlitt, if it doesn't come to your business and bosom, it isn't poetry.
सबब चश्मे ग़ज़ाला है कि पैमाना नमी दाना.
सुभान अल्लाह, सुभान अल्लाह.
सबब चश्मे ग़ज़ाला है
कि पैमाना नमी दाना.
ये मस्ती आशिकाना है कि रिंदाना
नमी दाना. सुभान अल्लाह, सुभान अल्लाह.
सबब चश्मे ग़ज़ाला है कि पैमाना नमी दाना. ये मस्ती आशिकाना है कि रिंदाना.
सुभान अल्लाह, सुभान. क्या कहने.
गुमा सहरा का है लेकिन मुक़य्यद घर में है वहशत.
वाह वाह वाह.
गुमा सहरा का है लेकिन मुक़य्यद घर में है वहशत. मेरा क्या हाल कर देगा ये वीराना.
नमी. सुभान अल्लाह, सुभान.
गुमा सहरा का है लेकिन मुक़य्यद घर में है वहशत. मेरा क्या हाल कर देगा ये वीराना.
नमी
दाना. जहां तेरा निशान पाया वहीं सजदे में सर रखा.
सुभान अल्लाह.
जहां तेरा निशान पाया वहीं सजदे में सर रखा. खुदा जाने वो मस्जिद थी कि मैं खाना नमी दाना. जहां तेरा निशान पाया वहीं सजदे में सर रखा. खुदा जाने वो मस्जिद थी कि मैं खाना नमी दानम. नजर आते ही शोला रूप लपकता है मचलता है. नजर आते ही शोला रूप
लपकता है
मचलता है. मेरे सीने में दिल है या के परवाना नमी. नजर आते ही शोला रू लपकता है चलता है. मेरे सीने में दिल है या के परवाना नमी दानम खुदा जाने तुम्हें क्या कुछ बता बैठा हूँ मस्ती में
वाह
खुदा जाने तुम्हें क्या कुछ बता बैठा हूँ मस्ती में
वाह
मेरी बातें हकीकत हैं कि अफसाना
वाह
नमी
वाह
दानम
वाह वाह
खुदा जाने
वाह
तुम्हें
वाह
क्या
क्या
कुछ
कह
बता बैठा हूँ मस्ती में मेरी बातें हकीकत है कि अफसाना
सुभान अल्लाह
नमी दानम निशाते लामकानी है कि रंजे कैदे हस्ती है
सुभान अल्लाह
निशाते
क्या कहने
लामकानी
वाह
है
वाह वाह क्या मित्र वाह वाह
निशाते लामकानी है
वाह वाह
कि रंजे कैदे हस्ती है
सुभान अल्लाह
छलकता क्यों है जाजिब दिल का पैमाना
हाँ हाँ हाँ
नमी
वाह वाह सुभान अल्लाह
निशाते लामकानी है
सुभान अल्लाह
कि रंजे कैदे हस्ती है
वाह वाह
छलकता क्यों है जाजिब दिल का
वाह, वाह,
पैमाना नमी
वाह
दानम ये मस्ती आशिकाना है
वाह
कि रिंदाना
Namida. Subhanallah. You see, when we, excellent, excellent, thoroughly beautiful. Every word, every line has its own beauty, and that poetic beauty, I see what we were talking. That is the bone of contention between we poets today. That even if you want to say something new, you
Yes,
can't
yes.
get too far away from tradition. Knowledge of tradition.
Is very essential. Is very essential. You say, Tabi Saab used to say a line that if you want to make a long jump, you cannot make a long jump while standing at one side. For that long jump, you will have to run from
Take
the
a
back.
start, yes.
You will have to take a start from the back.
Yes, exactly.
And while running, you will make a long jump. While standing, you can't make a long jump. So even if we want to make a long jump, for that we just need to have that momentum with us. The history, the tradition gives us that momentum which takes us or carried us.
What we call Sheri Tehzeeb. That is a civic, a whole civics of poetry involved in it.
Yes, of course, of course. The word Tehzeeb in itself is a much bigger, even much bigger word than the culture. I must say.
Because culture is of one place, but Tehzeeb is ever
in
evolving.
sociology, we define culture as it's a whole sum of all human civilization or human. Tehzeeb is something very, very the essence of the culture. You can say the Tehzeeb. So Sheri Tehzeeb in itself is if you or if the poetry doesn't make you humble, doesn't make you you can say doesn't fulfill your heart, then you are just wasting your time.
It doesn't make you humane.
Humane.
Yes. When I was listening to your poetry, and I was again thinking of so many things, because there are so many dimensions in that. We have a great tradition of metaphysical mystic poetry in Urdu. You still can't read. You talked about Jigar Muradabadi. You talked about
Asghar Gondwi
Sahab, and even Ghalib Mir Iqbal.
Everyone has a mystic dimension in their poetry.
Like, for example, when we talk about an object used in poetry, Aina like, and Aina has centuries-old tradition of mysticism. Aina
Even
has
this,
so many.
this whole panorama of Rindi and Mekhana, all this has its own mystic background.
And in that basis of the very basis of that is to to elevate yourself from this mundane,
Yes.
to get touch the sublime.
Yes.
So sublime, I think, is the key word for today.
The poet is a person who is above the average intellect of the society.
And even sensibility.
Unfortunately, if poets are bringing themselves down to the level of their audience, then you're not doing your work. Then you are just doing a mimicry or Nazmane Hal.
It's only a performance, yes.
It's only performance. If you recognize your potential, if you recognize your stature, if you recognize your standing in the society, then it becomes your duty, it becomes your function to bring your audience to that level, to inculcate a sense of humanism, to inculcate a sense of something which is above this mundane atmosphere. If you are not doing this and you are just, there are two trends in these days which we are seeing. One trend is just to say something new, to make someone astonished. Oh, how, wow. And one trend is just to say what people want to listen.
Oh,
What people want to listen.
mass production of poetry.
Mass production. In this whole scenario, the institution of mushaira has been damaged. Mushaira used to be a basic institution or a basic
Nursery.
school or basic nursery for poets and listeners as well.
Yes.
As listeners used to understand, listeners used to learn how to listen to poetry. There is an incident of Miranese once. Miranese was in Majlis at Lucknow, Imambara, and one of the Nawab who was in the audience, sitting in the audience, while Miranese was reciting the Marsiya, he just took out his pandan and his servant presented him a pan, and he just took that pan, keep it in his mouth, and Anis just saw this. So he just closed his book and he said, okay, you go ahead with your pan.
Shauk farmaiye.
And he closed his book, he stepped down, and for 7 years he didn't return to the Lucknow Bank.
That's how it should be done.
So unfortunately now we have ruined this institution. We have ruined the young generation.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you rightly pointed out to this phenomenon right in the start of the show. You said capitalism is consumerism is guiding whole of the episteme that we call the spirit of the age. And as you said that if poetry is not full of compassion, full of pathos, full of empathy, full of humanity, then it's
if the purpose of the poetry is to earn money, then it's a commercial
or
venture.
even recognition of enemy.
Or then it's a commercial venture just. Then what happened to our drama, what happened to our film, what happened to our music, that is going to happen with our poetry as well.
Exactly. And that is happening. We are witnessing this decline. We are witnessing
and music is a very sad example in this even in whole this subcontinent, even in India. The tradition, the standards of the music, which used to be the a hallmark of our
subcontinental
culture, that has not been ruined.
And in Pakistan, classical music has almost vanished.
Ghazal Gaiki has vanished. Only the people in all phenomena, somebody was saying, and not want to just quote someone's name or, but character. If we symbolize a character of Chahat Fateh Ali Khan, so in all areas of
we have some of the sort.
We have such characters in all areas, and they are ruining, they are destroying your basic fabric of the society.
Sure. And that goes true with the basic fabric of
and
poetry.
Of course, behind all this is only commercialism.
Consumerism culture.
And commercialism. So, why the question rises, why this was not before? Why this is not so evident in these days? When we go in the past, when we go in the history, at the state level or at the influential people's level, they used to patronize art and culture. They used to patronize culture. They used to protect culture. They used to patronize poets, writers, painters, musicians. So the writers or the musicians or the painters don't have to worry to earn their livelihood.
Bread and butter.
When if a person has some skill and he has to earn his bread and butter through that skill, and he has to earn it from the masses, from the general public. Then he will come to the level of those.
It only becomes a laborious task then. It doesn't remain an aesthetic
creativity, aestheticity, anything which is a character of creation. That will just.
It reminds me of Iqbal's one fard from Payam Masjid, one couplet. He says ke Nakhde Shair dar khure bazar neest. Nakhde Shair dar khure bazar neest. Non basi mein nastar annatman khareed. You can't buy bread from pure gold. You can't pay. Non basi mein nastar annatman khareed. This is a fard.
Ghalib said, kyun shahid gul havas se zar, I just forgot. We are Nadeem said, bunche khilte hain to bik jate hain bazaron. Husn begana ya ehsaas jamal acha. It was almost of the same philosophy.
Poetry can never be mass produced. Poetry is very personal task.
And the poets or the creators, this is, I'll again say, this is the duty of the state to nourish them, to protect them, and to keep them away from being carried away with this popular wave. Just to earn their level.
I relate my next question to this. We are going to end of our program very soon. Next 10 minutes, our discussion is not stopping. It seems we have just started. It is an allegation that modern ghazal has produced a Samea listener, not a reader. We don't find a reader of modern ghazal.
Again, this is a matter of performance. Because now the commercialism or the money is driving through the listening sessions.
Not even if money, fame as well.
Fame as well, of course. With the passage of time, books are just dying away. Social media has taken, screen has taken the place of the page.
Yes.
So, book in that form may live. It will live on the screen, if not on the paper. But the trend which has changed is of a momentary pleasure. Momentary pleasure in a gathering, in a mushaira, and where just people come and listen, and they come to enjoy.
Just for recreation.
Just for recreation. So the poet has become an entertainer.
Yes.
So when the poet has become an entertainer, then definitely you cannot expect him that he will go for new experimentation, or he will go for something creative which requires a reader. And the reader, when a reader was more intellectual than the listener, because the reader has an ample time to understand the meanings behind the meanings, the layers of the poetry. But a listener don't have much time to go beyond just he is listening.
Because it's immediate reaction.
If it attracts the listener immediately, he will say, "Wow."
Again,
or if it is not attracting the listener, he'll say, "What's this?"
Again, it reminds me of the same guy, Eliot. We talked about a lot much about him. He said that if a couplet or a poem immediately attracts a great many audience, there are two things. That one, it is saying what so many times has been already said, and the other one is it is very the idea is very and style is very base.
But I think it happens in every age. Maybe we are experiencing this in our age. This phenomena was also maybe in the time of Mir, or in the time of Ghalib, or in the time of Hafiz.
Yes.
We are experiencing this in this modern age, and in every era and in every time, the real reader or the real appreciator of art and culture were very few.
They have been very few, yes.
And the real creators were very few.
Exactly.
At the same time. So that's the same now. The creators are doing their job. They are very few, but they are, and they will remain, and they will be remembered. And the reader, who are very few, who have time enough to understand, to explore the meanings behind the meanings. They will remember those writers, they will remember those poets, they will remember those creators. And lastly, someone was telling me that the poetry which is listened in the mushaira or gathering is just vanished away, though it earns a fame, but it cannot earn the name, because the name is earned only when you stay on the paper.
Oh, exactly, exactly. It is where you travel in time, where you are recorded, where you kept, you people. I still see.
And if you are referred after a century or after 2 centuries, then it means that you have done something which traveled through the ages, or which was real creation.
And you see, sir, there is still a mystery, a great mystery, that we read Ghalib when we were in schools. We started reading.
Yes.
But even when we read Ghalib today, we have new meanings.
New meanings.
And that's not without the layers of meanings. And that the layers don't come without deliberation, contemplation of poet's personal self into his own creative self.
Few days back, I just read a verse of Munir that कि पोच बाफी ही है काम इन जुलाओं तय नाजमान है वो मुमकिन मुमकिन नहीं तय इनके बस में नहीं ये नाजमान हाल कि पोच बाफी ही है काम इन जुलाहों का. So it's if you are saying very superficial things, if you are saying very you can say which are just on the layers, then you are not doing something which is creative.
Even, and if you have said poetry, the goddess of poetry, muses are so beneficent, so caring, that even if you have said one couplet with your heart, time keeps it.
Again, the real poet or the real writer has to combine these two things with him. One is the art in itself, that it should be, it should appear like a piece of art. And the other thing, the current trend,
the impulse of the age.
If your writings is devoid of those impulse, that will not be relevant. That will not be because the poetry or the art is the real history of its time. Because we say in every era, historians are compromised. So
and there is no concept of writing contemporary history.
Even contemporary history cannot be written impartially.
Yes.
Only poets or writers are the persons who write an impartial contemporary history.
Excellent. Jazib Saab, again, I thank you very much for such a prolific talk, such an illuminating talk, and we have been talking like we have the same views on the issue, because poetry, anyone relevant to poetry directly or indirectly, as a reader, as a creator, or prima facie was a creator today, but reader also is involved in that. So poetic creativity age, it's not only, it is a depiction of the history of internal man, how a man feels, how he reacts to the world around him, how he reacts to the basic emotions like love, hate, sorrows, griefs.
Although the emotions are seen throughout the human history, throughout the human life, there are 5 or 10 basic emotions around which the whole human life or whole human society revolves.
Some high critics say that there are only 4 things in tradition.
Love, hate,
but now their internal chemistry has changed in the modern world, and I think it's a basic duty, it's pivotal to the poets that they take up this task, and they are taking up, to recompose the worn out ideas. What he said, Iqbal said, Shaire Rangi Nawa hai, Didaye Binaye Kaun, or what said that Rahe Mazmoon Taza Band Nahi, Ta Qiyamat Khuda Hai Babe Sukhan. With this word of Wali, we take leave from our audience today. Thank you very much for listening to us on this prolific talk on poetry, on the creative process with Mr. Shakeel Jazib, renowned poet. And at the end, I forgot in the beginning of congratulating him on achieving a high award, the Fayyaz. Dear audience, thank you very much for listening to us. Keep on listening to Planet FM 87.6. That's all from Munir, Fayyaz and team FM 87.6 today. Thank you. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. This is the great Pakistan.